I think it turned out quite well with the like cinnamon and the salt.
Is that the ready bought one? And
yeah.
It's just ice in it?
Yeah.
And
it's
then
probably not much ice left.
It's just the
margarita. Cheers. Should we have a fun little discussion about chronic illness over margaritas? So, I was just thinking, because I can't remember actually, like, when was the first time that you heard about EDS? Or when was like the first time I talked to you about it?
When did you have your appendix out?
Well, I had my appendix out in April when I was like 19, so I was like just 1 month shy of being like 20.
Yeah.
But I didn't know anything about EDS then when I had that out.
No. You were talking about chronic fatigue at the time, that's what they were suspecting.
Chronic fatigue is just like a collection of symptoms, because it's like called chronic fatigue syndrome, and a syndrome really is just like a collection of symptoms. So Ehlers-Danlos syndrome should not be called a syndrome because it's like an actual genetic disease, but for chronic fatigue syndrome I think it's just a lot of people with it kind of like, oh, we don't know what's wrong with you, your numbers for all of the tests are like within the normal range. I guess that's like kind of quite a common thing that people get labelled with if they don't know what's wrong with you.
So
like,
that's what you started talking about when that was going on.
And I don't want to like invalidate anyone that has that, because they probably have legitimate issues going on. I just think
there might be more to the story once they start finding out more.
That was like a misdiagnosis, I guess, kind of for me, because for me my fatigue is like part of EDS and stuff.
Yes.
So yeah, that was like kind of a little bit of a detour. When I started getting worried was when I was like going on these runs and I would like, my heart rate as soon as I started exercising would just go straight up to 180 like, and then I just got to a point where I was like, whoa, I like almost can't catch my breath when I was running, and I just had to lie down like on the grass somewhere and be like,
and it wouldn't come down either, it would stay up for a while.
For ages after. Yeah. I was like, oh, I'm young and exercise is a good thing, and people have been telling me with this chronic fatigue thing that I should slowly start to increase my exercise and I should slowly start to increase everything, and I was just like, oh, that's not normal. So then I went to the doctor after that, and he basically managed to catch me in an episode, because I think this is the tricky thing for Sophia as well. Yeah. Is like, a lot of the time, you seem normal, you look normal. Yeah. And especially if you've been sitting down in a doctor's office waiting to see someone, your heart rate will be quite low, you haven't done anything strenuous. So he caught me in an episode and he was like, okay, well, I'm not comfortable with you going home. He was like, do you want us to call an ambulance? And I was like, no. So then me and Richard just got an Uber to the hospital, and that's when I got my beta blocker, and they observed me for a little while.
I remember you saying that it felt like an elephant got off your chest.
Yeah. It was weird, like, you're just constantly living with it, so you're kind of used to it, but it just feels like tight, you know? And I think that's what is called like angina. You're just like breathing and your heart's going, you can feel it, but as soon as I took the beta blockers, it was just like my chest like opened up and relaxed. It was amazing. And me and Richard could see it like on the heart monitors and all of the things they had me hooked up to as well. Like we could see it coming down after I took the medicine. I was just like, wow, this is amazing. And after I took the beta blocker, I could like exercise and all of that. But I don't think I talked to you about EDS at that time either. Do you remember?
No. Around the thyroid, but that has evened out and that's worked out. So, but when I was so sick and you were so sick. I was just looking at connections between the two at that point. I didn't know anything about EDS or anything like that. So it wasn't until
and that's the funny thing, isn't it? Because I feel like it's like almost skipped a generation, because obviously my grandma, like your mum, has had a lot of symptoms of EDS throughout her life, and even now talking to her I'm finding out about all of these tests she did when she was younger, because she just was fainting constantly and she just was so tired and had so many problems. And like you were saying how when you, Peter and Daniel were like little kids, like you guys had a whole routine around what would happen when she would faint.
She fainted several times a week, and she was pretty good. When she felt that she was going to faint, she fell in the right position. You should have them on their side.
And it's
the
kind of
leg
like the
up
recovery
and
position.
like, So she basically almost fainted in that. She was like, oh, here I go again. And she just did that. And we would just sort of pat her a little bit. Sometimes we might get a little blanket for her to wake up there, or if Dad was home, we'd go and get him and he would carry her up into the bed. I remember she would tremor, she would shake. It's like, oh, she's coming to, she's just shaking and she's coming to. And I remember, I thought all mums basically did that, because she did that. And I had friends coming, they were all, oh, she faints, you know. As long as she doesn't faint in the bathroom, that's no good. To me, it was just normal.
It was definitely a special upbringing. But yeah, I guess for her, just during that time, and I mean, even now, like, they've only updated the most recent EDS criteria in 2018. Like, that's so recently that they've updated all the EDS criteria, and they're trying to get physicians and doctors to learn more and understand more about it, and all of the conditions that can come along with it, like postural orthostatic tachycardia, where you faint a lot and things like this. But like, in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, like, people just wouldn't have really known about it. And they're like, okay, you're a petite woman, you've got low blood pressure and you faint a lot.
I think they were putting it down to,
mental health type of stuff.
Maybe, yes. That she'd had some shock, that there had been some things that had happened, and that wasn't just leaving her.
Yeah.
You were researching a lot, so you might have come across or said something, I'm not sure, but it wasn't anything that was like, I'm hoping with Sophia that could happen too, that if they monitor her heart, that if they give her, that she could see what the difference it makes. She will see it on her watch anyway, but...
Yeah. No, it's so good that we have these watches now, so that we can, like, monitor our heart rate, and it's just always on you, and it's like monitoring your sleep and other things as well. So it's just great to have that data, and you can show doctors and people as well. Like, what did you feel? Like, what did you think when at first I was having my appendix out, and then I was like having a heart rate problems?
You're like me. It's emotional.
Oh, is it? It's like not even emotional for me now.
No.
I was talked about it so much.
It was horrific being here when you had your appendix out and I wasn't there.
Oh, I was so lucky because I had Richard with me.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, he's just been like the most amazing support, and so I felt safe and happy. And you did ask me if I wanted you to come over, and I was like, absolutely not. Like,
save the money for when we can enjoy being together.
Yeah, I want us to have a fun holiday together. I don't want you coming over because, well, I'm just sitting there feeling like crap. Like, you weren't starting to think about, like, our family or our family history or anything. Or...
I think when
I remember when I fainted,
started fainting, then I started thinking about your grandma, Mormon.
Yeah.
And also when you were starting to dislocate, because I remember she dislocated her knees when she was pregnant with your uncle. Maybe he was born, it was around his birth or just after he was, I don't know. But I know we weren't in the picture, me and Daniel weren't.
Having this knowledge, we know that it's like you can have difficulties with digestion, you have difficulties with blood pressure, all this stuff. But like no one knew at the time. And
I remember her needing to rest, like more than other mums.
You just don't have any other idea when that's what you've had the whole time. Like you can't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And she never got help for it.
She probably thought it was emotional, or she probably thought that it was like she probably didn't feel it was emotional, but like
I think she blamed herself. Like I think her self-confidence took a dip because of it, maybe.
And that it was not I think they put it down to shock or something or whatever, or
as they did back then with women. I feel like it would have they're like, oh, it's your nerves, it's shock, it's something like that. But she's lived like an amazing life still, despite that. Like, I mean, she's had 3 kids. She travelled to Russia, like, regularly. She was, like, a travel agent. And, like, what else did she do? She started, like, the Scouts when you guys were living in Saudi Arabia.
Like, my father worked at Skanska building roads, and she was quite keen to see the world and do something else. And so that was quite a big adventure, going.
And you were, like, 8 years old then.
No, I was 6, I think.
Oh, really?
So 6 to 8 years old we were there. That's when I got the travel bug.
Yeah.
And me.
Just seeing such a different environment and how different things are and wanting to explore.
Yeah, it was amazing. Your grandma, Mortimer, she started the Scouts. She ended up being a home economics teacher. She also ended up being the PE teacher because people came and they went, so they needed people for different things, and she just jumped right in
and that's something that's brought her so much joy over the years, is checking back with these kids like that were in her scout group in Saudi Arabia over the years and seeing once they came back to Sweden what they've been up to. And I think she
took the older ones. We weren't allowed. She had some other leaders as well, and she had other helpers or whatever, but they went out in the desert and had a desert hike.
Which is so amazing, like considering like the fainting and her health stuff, that she was just like, no, you know what, you have one life, I want to start this thing, I want to do it, I think it's going to be good for people, and she just had the determination and she went out and did it.
People talk about it to this day. They're just so amazed that they got to live through that. She has done a lot with
and I think that's what really inspires me as well, is just like, you know, it's, yes, you get a set of circumstances, you have certain things that happen, and there's not much you can do about that. You don't have much control over that. But at the same time, it's up to you what you want to choose and what you want to do with your life. And I think it's just so amazing, like seeing what she's done. And that's another thing I was thinking, is like, I'm kind of happy we didn't know about EDS when like I was a young child or anything, because I wasn't really like that affected by it when I was younger. And like I just got to have a normal childhood. Like I just got to feel normal and happy and not like a little porcelain doll that had to be so careful. Like I can think about if I would have known I had EDS, or if I have kids and I know they have EDS, I would want to protect them. I'd want to be like, you know, you're going to have to be careful with your joints, you're going to have to be careful with this and that, you know. But I grew up without really any of that because we just didn't know about it. And I can be quite grateful that I haven't had this kind of like mindset of, oh, I'm different, I'm sick, I'm not allowed to do that. Like, if there was something to try out, like, I've always been an anxious and very, like, cautious kid anyway, so I didn't just, like, throw myself off, like, trees and do the most extreme thing anyway. But I always, like, if everyone else was doing something, like, I would give it a go too. Like, if we all had to do something at school, like, I would do it. And I'm really happy that I was made to like face those challenges and do those things, like despite having EDS.
I feel a little bit torn.
There's like pros and cons with both sides, right? Because like if we would have known, we could have put like more like strategies in place and managed it in a different way, and that would have been really good to know too.
You could have exercised, you could have strengthened your body in certain ways that you might have needed to, or when you were a little baby and just your eating patterns, how they were, that you just had a little bit to eat and then you were screaming and then we'd be up and carry you and then
it's because you just can't digest like a normal meal like someone else can. Like you just have to have little often, and that must just be so hard. I can imagine
because
like
it was
having
going
a
against
newborn,
everything.
like
in a way, it wasn't actually going against what they were saying. What they had said previously was that you were supposed to only feed your children every 3 to 4 hours, every 4 hours or so. We were able to do that more with Sophia. With you, it didn't work. So you were showing us what you needed, but it wasn't. At the time, we were lucky because they said, listen to the child, just follow and don't be so strict. So it was lucky because as a young mum, I read all the books and I was
I can imagine this.
I just wanted to know, I just wanted to do it right. I just wanted, you know, but luckily I read some good books. There was something called the Continuum Principle, but if we would have known, then it could have been maybe different.
But I think back to being younger, and really there's not much except for a couple of scenarios where I maybe dislocated something.
You're thinking of then?
Well, I think, you know, as a kid you do lots of weird stuff. Like you're out playing tag or you're doing different things, and I think often there would be a time where like bent my knee a little bit funny, and I was like, oh, I felt that, something felt weird. But then it would go back in again, and it didn't hurt. And so I was like, oh, whatever, that was random. And then, you know, I just keep on playing tag or keep on doing what I was doing. And so I guess other kids just didn't have that. They just ran and played tag, and they never had their knee pop out of place. I just thought that was normal. I was like, oh, everyone's joints must go in a funny position from time to time. And so I just didn't think about it very much. But like, I know one thing that we reflected on when I found out about the EDS diagnosis was you always used to hold my hands, and you always felt my skin was like so soft and doughy when I was like a little kid. And my like ligaments were so like loose and bendy and stretchy. Yes. So like when I was like a little kid, when we were like napping, you used to just lie in bed with me and like hold my hands. You always told me about that.
My grandmother, bruised like a peach, like we've all, and I think maybe her sisters as well, and my mum, I bruise easily as well.
It's just interesting looking back on it now. Like you just start to think,
so many more.
like,
Wow,
it makes sense. Like
it was just one of those things. You thought, oh, that's just how we are, or whatever. But when you accumulate and when you get the classes of EDS on, and all things start to fall into place.
Yeah,
I think it was so hard. The way it had to come, the way it came about, the way it had to happen. You had Richard, so I'm so grateful for that. And you had...
I love Richard.
Yes. But it was a challenging time.
No, it was definitely a tough time. Like
we had a divorce, and my family wasn't united, and...
Yeah. No, and I mean, this is why
it was a lot for you to carry on your own, and a lot for you to investigate, a lot for you to figure out and do.
But I think that's also just my personality. Like, if there's something I don't understand, like, I just want to dissect it and understand it and research it, which I feel is kind of different from you. Like, you're kind of just like, oh, this is a thing, but let's all just be like kumbaya and not think about it too much. Like, you're very much like, whatever will be, let's just...
it's I think...
I definitely go into research mode. Like, I feel safer knowing everything about something.
Yeah.
And then I know...
I think I'm a little bit all or nothing.
Yeah.
And I think I've been told that I am that I'm too nervous about it, or that I shouldn't check things out or whatever, because then I get too worried or whatever. I feel that I've been told that, so then I stopped trusting my instincts maybe a little bit, and then I was like, better keep calm, but it's all right, everything is fine, you know.
You want to be a reassuring parent, and you want to be strong for the person that's going through stuff.
Yeah, and sort of say that, no, I'm sure it's okay. And if
I don't know how you feel, but that's my interpretation of what could be happening.
That's what I'm thinking, that some of the things that until we had the glasses of EDS on, they didn't make sense, but all of a sudden things started to connect and made sense. But until then, like, oh, I'm bruising a lot. Well, it's like,
so what?
Yeah, so it's like,
what do we do about that?
You don't have blödarsjuka, whatever that is.
You don't have like hemophilia.
So then, so you let it slide, and then but then you let it slide. So it just sort of started to make sense later on.
And that's quite interesting, because like before you came to visit me, when I got my diagnosis from the geneticist, I'd had like quite a long hard road of going to like lots of different doctors, lots of different specialists, being like, I know something's wrong here. Like, I don't know what it is. I'm not a doctor. I can't fix this on my own, but I feel like I can't do this anymore. Like, I need help with this. And they would recommend that I go to different people, and it was kind of like, it was really hard to talk about with anyone, because A, you just don't have the language to describe what's going on in your body, because you don't know that you have EDS. And B, you don't want to like worry people unnecessarily. So like I would tell some close people like maybe what was happening, but that I don't really know what's going on. And then also, if you tell people something serious, you don't want them to all of a sudden be like, oh, you're lying. Like, why did you tell me that you might have like a heart problem or you might have this or that? And then it turns out not to be that way.
Who would say that you were lying?
No, I don't know. That was always my thing, was I had a really hard time sharing or talking about anything until I had a firm diagnosis. Like, even though we were like maybe 99% sure that I had like all the symptoms of something and that I was like affected by it in these ways, I have a diagnosis that's not valid. I'm not allowed to tell anyone I need help or I'm struggling, because
so sad.
they just
such a burden to carry.
I felt like unless a doctor had told me something objectively, like I wasn't allowed to say things to people. There were a few people I told, like close friends, like, oh, I'm going to a lot of doctor's appointments, or I'm fainting, or this is happening, but I guess I just wasn't very like specific with people, because A, it's just difficult to talk about in general, like illness and stuff, and B, I just didn't want to feel like I was worrying people unnecessarily. So yeah, that was tricky. So I'd gone to just like a lot of people, and I'd been carrying it a lot myself, except for Richard, who lived with me, and so I just couldn't hide it from him. Like, he just saw how things were, and he was like, this is not normal, you know, like, he was such a good support for me, because I think I was so hard on myself, like, now, with knowing that I have EDS and things, it's like, I don't want to just give myself a get out of jail free card, like, oh, I don't have to try in life anymore. Like, there are things I want to accomplish and goals that I have, and there's definitely a lot of things I want to do, but I'm not so hard on myself anymore. I'm not just like...
That's very good.
Yeah. And especially being like the older sibling or the fixer or the one that always had energy and did stuff. Like, if Sophia needed help, I was like, I'm the older sister. It's my job to like help her because she's younger. And then when I just didn't have that energy and I wasn't so productive and I couldn't be the fixer and the helper, and it's like people were like asking, can I help you? And I was just like, no, I don't want help. Like, I'm the helper. I'm the one that helps people. Like, why are you offering me help? Like, it was like just such a change for like my identity, I guess. Like,
the way you viewed yourself.
The way I viewed myself, and like how I move around in the world, like how I am in the world, like it had to change. Like, I was like, I can't just be that anymore. It's not sustainable for me. With Richard, he was very good at telling me, he was like, you're thinking about this too much, or you're doing this too much, like, you need to relax, like, you need to, he was very good at telling me to like, slow down, take a breath, this is a hard situation and you've done what you can, you need to stop being so hard on yourself. And I'm just so thankful for him. Like, I'm so just happy. I can't imagine a better person to have to go through all that stuff with. So it's just really nice. And this was at the start of COVID. I went to a rheumatologist and they diagnosed me, which was quite a overwhelming experience. On one hand, I got validation for all these things I've been experiencing that no one else understood. And finally there's someone that understands it, so you've got this relief. But then at the same time, you're being told there's this and this and this and this. It seems like, okay, well, I have to tell you, like, you know this is genetic. So you know that any children you have a 50% chance of getting this. And he was like, that's something you need to be aware of if you have children. I've been through like a long journey of doubting myself and not talking to people and all these things. And then you came during COVID. New Zealand was like kind of like China, where they were like, we can't have any cases. Like, they were very like, we want to eliminate COVID in this country. The mental health risks associated with shutting down a city like Auckland, or shutting down a country and not letting people travel to and from a country and not letting them see their family, like,
nobody knew. It was new for everyone.
Yeah.
And all the different countries dealt with it differently.
Exactly. And I mean, it's just so interesting being from Sweden and New Zealand, because Sweden had completely like the opposite approach. Like, Sweden just stayed open and was like, you know, we need to keep our economy going, we need to prioritise these other things. And in New Zealand, it was just a priority of, we don't want COVID to spread at all, like, we need to be so strict. And I'm happy we're over that phase now. But you had to...
that's a hard topic to hit in here with everything else.
I know, let's have a sip of margarita.
With you.
Cheers. Anyway, during that whole time, it was very hard for people to come into New Zealand, and it was very hard to get an exemption if you didn't find a hotel to stay into quarantine to be able to come into the country. Luckily, you managed to get an exemption in the end. And you came, and then you and Sophie moved back to Sweden after that. One time I was in the emergency room because of something. A doctor was like, oh, EDS. He was like, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm gonna do this for you today so we can sort out your problem, your emergency, and then I want you to come back to the hospital for a general medicine appointment, and I'm going to discuss EDS with you. And I was like, okay. And I didn't think much of it. And I went to the general medicine appointment, and then eventually he sent a referral to a geneticist, and when you were visiting me, I got a letter in the mail saying, you have an appointment with a geneticist at this time, can you please come to Auckland Hospital? And so we went into the city and we went to see her. And I think that was just one of the best appointments I've ever been to. Like, and I'm so glad you got to come for it. And she said that you probably have sort of some traits of EDS too, but you haven't had kind of the same issues with the fainting and the digestion.
As a young adult, just starting out, it wasn't affecting me so much, but it was maybe when I was 17, 18, 19, somewhere there, that's when it started to really, if I look at it, if I think about it, from an EDS perspective, maybe if I had those things, then that's when it was starting to
I don't know, I find this so frustrating because you're still like, if I have those things, because you don't have a firm diagnosis of it, but it's like, I have it, Mortimer has it, like, there's no way you're not carrying the gene for it, like, you've got to have, like, some things.
Yeah, a lot of other things probably as well. There's, as we know now, we've looked into this ADHD, there's lots of different things that can occur against maybe, which might be something. So that there's still so many things that we're just sort of finding out, really.
That's the tricky thing, I think, with EDS. It's not just like you've got EDS, you're done. It's you have more of a chance of getting these autoimmune diseases that often come along with EDS. You have more of a chance of having these issues because of your blood vessels are all crap and don't constrict properly and are all thin and stuff. I think you just definitely have it, but you don't have an official diagnosis, and I think it's tricky. I don't know if you want to pursue that. Obviously, it's like up to you what you wanna.
It's
like
as you know, it's just not you like. I've gone to doctors. I've asked them to, and they what the general doctor did. He sent me to a physiotherapist, and I did the physiotherapist test. You know, whatever they said for me to do. I did that, and they sent it to the doctor, and then nothing's happened. You know, it just, I have to constantly drive it and push it, and like, as you know.
Well, and especially like you have a full-time job as well. Like, I mean, you work, like you, obviously we haven't explained like the background, but like I'm sleeping in the lounge at the moment. Like I'm staying at your place, and we've been trying to get a ramp for 6 months, and it's just insane because it's like...
For you to get into the house, there's stairs outside, stairs inside. But I think now it's good. Sophia, Emily's sister, she's going to have a heart monitor on for 48 hours, is it? Yeah. Which is going to be good, so we can see where she's at, and then we'll follow through with what happens with that. And if that, then maybe if you girls both, you know, then it might be easier. Like it just
for you to get like a diagnosis around. I still need to find some good specialists here in Sweden. This is a better health system in some ways because I've got help with my wheelchair, I've got help with my physio, I've got help in so many ways that I need. It's very hard to get into the system as well here, which is just kind of unfortunate with Richard.
Not with physio. Physio was very quick
physio
for you.
was quick for me, yeah.
And because it was such a visible thing as well.
Yeah.
And it just felt, ugh, to you.
And that almost feels too much.
Yeah,
like, that's almost, I'm not used to that. I don't even know if I've told you, but like 5 days ago, I went on Instagram and they found one of the gene
No,
variants
they haven't.
for hypermobile EDS. I was like, oh my god, like I got so excited. So it's
You've got to book an appointment with your doctor.
I know, I need to. It's just so much, like different doctors, different appointments. But yeah, I will. Even if they don't develop a genetic test or publicly roll out like genetic tests for people with EDS to see if they have the kallikrein gene or not. I know that they have my DNA on file at Auckland Hospital in New Zealand, so maybe they'll be able to test the genetics. I already have on file. So in these two families, they found that there was like a variant with kallikrein 15, and that gene is responsible for immune stuff, clotting and different clotting problems with blood and stuff. Which is interesting with the bruising.
That was a thing, by the way, but we can talk about that later.
When they find like a correlation like this, they do a really big study, they enroll lots of people, they find a common thing between different families, and then they have to verify their results. So then they replicated this in mice. So they made some mice embryos that have faults in their kallikrein 15 gene. They had the same symptoms of EDS that a human would when they mutated this kallikrein gene. And the collagen, when they took biopsies of the collagen from the mice, it was smaller, more lax, like not, it was defective basically. It was not like normal collagen of the normal mice, the control mice that they had. So they were able to replicate their results, and so I guess that is like a really huge step forward, because then for like 1/3 of people that have hypermobile EDS, they will be able to test. Like as someone that has a genetic mutation and as someone that has EDS, like the future scares me a little bit with genetics, whether like we're gonna completely stop all of these genetic mutations from happening, because I don't know if it's like nature's course a little bit, like it's like maybe a lot of people that are dying of high blood pressure and dying of heart attacks and all these things, it's such a common cause of death, like maybe that's why this genetic mutation exists, is to bring down the blood pressure and to change the genetics of people so that they don't die from strokes and heart attacks and blood clots all the time. But maybe it's just gone a bit too much the other way. So I don't know, like maybe it's good for humans to have gene variability and to have lots of different types of people and lots of different types of gene mutations. I don't know. But yeah,
it's that in the future you look at our genes would be good for creating this for that, like that's a bit
it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting to think. I don't feel like I shouldn't exist, or like that no one with EDS should be allowed to have children because they have a genetic mutation. Like
this is why there is Margarita, and also I am not used to being in front of a camera, so Emily thought it was a good idea to have a margarita.
Yeah, get you warmed up a little.
Things were really coming together by
that
time. Yeah, by that time. And I got to be there for that for whatever reason.
Which was nice. It was kind of nice for me. Like it was like the final puzzle piece. Like it explained so much about you and your mum and our whole family. And I was just happy that I got to have you there at that appointment with me.
For me, it was just, wishing that I would have been there for all of it and that you wouldn't have had to have been doing that all alone. But that was not what happened.
That's just the way it is.
It wasn't the way it was. It was sort of like being in a whirlwind and just sort of all these things were happening. I was just trying to take it all in, I think. Yeah, I can't really...
It was just overwhelming. But I think for me, like personally, that appointment was one of the better appointments. Like she was just, the way she handled everything. She was like, she handled herself very well. She explained everything. She was like, if you have questions, like contact me. She was calm. She listened to everything we had to say as well. Like she just made me feel so understood.
But it's good for me, now that you say that was one of the best appointments you've ever had.
Yeah.
then because we've been going to doctors, and sometimes you're just like, oh, that went horribly, and I'm like, did it really? I was like, I thought that was pretty good, and that, but it gives me a reference point to what you think is,
I think I just also have probably like medical trauma from just like, how have things been since I came here? Because now this is a massive change for me. Like I was getting to a stage where I was comfortable managing my EDS in New Zealand. I was happy with the way things were going over there until I got this sort of nerve injury. And then because of the way the system is structured in New Zealand, as if you have an accident, they cover everything, and if you have a pre-existing condition, even though I had private health insurance, there was just so many things I couldn't get covered. And yeah, I just felt like I was like stagnating. Like I was like, I know that this first year of after having a nerve injury is so important for your rehabilitation and going to physio, and I'm just not qualifying for the support that I need here. And it was just a really tough decision and a hard time to try to think about. I'd wanted to come back to Europe eventually anyway, and I was like, I guess that's what me and Richard want to do in our 20s. Like we want to travel and we want to have different jobs and see a different side of things. We don't just want to stay in New Zealand forever. So I was thinking of coming here anyway, and I knew that EDS care, like I could qualify for more stuff here probably, and I knew that in England it's like, I don't know, they recently had like a hearing in Parliament, and like Richard lives close to London, and they've just got so many good EDS specialists in London, and I knew there was opportunities over here to manage it in a different way. And I don't know if I was like necessarily ready to move when I did, but I was just like, I can't deal with this anymore.
It was also the whatever articles in the paper,
and my friends
dying,
like,
and
people with EDS not having a easy or good time of it at all, and I was just like, I just don't feel
you needed a check.
We made the decision, me and Richard, to come here, and he'd wanted to come back to the UK as well, or Europe, and he likes Sweden for some reason. I'm like, why do you like Sweden? You've only been here in winter when it's crap. You have to come when it's like midsummer, and of course he's working when it's like beautiful and he can't come and see it, but it's okay, he'll see it sometime. And I feel like it's been worth it, because I feel like I have had more support here. I've had more physio, like you've come with me to my physio appointments, and I can have up to 3 or 4 physio appointments a week if I wanted to. Like I normally do 2 to 3, like total other level of like help and support, and it's what I needed.
And with your wheelchair, they've been amazing. The way you just got it customized for you.
The fact that I don't own it, like I'm renting it for free, like they're like, if you want different wheels, if you want a different anything, like if you want to change anything, we will change it for you for free, and you can rent it off us for free. Yeah. Because we want to make this the best experience for you.
You're not paying for it, you're using it, you're not renting it.
But I mean, that's how the system is set up. It's like, they're kind of like, you're a client of us, and you're renting this bit for free.
Yeah, you're renting it for free. Yeah. It's very good.
Exactly.
Best way of renting.
I'm sure it's like
with
weird.
What? With you living here, I don't mind at all. I'm happy to get the chance, because we had years where we weren't able to be together when you were younger.
Yeah.
It's
I obviously didn't expect that this was kind of the way my life was heading. Like a year ago I came here, and I
were hoping that Richard would be here with you.
Yeah, he didn't get his visa. That didn't work out as planned.
No.
A year ago I was here visiting you, and I'd had a internship, full paid scholarship to the Guggenheim. I was doing really well in my honours, which I never finished because I got injured, and now I'm looking at courses for Gothenburg University, so I'm looking at getting back into that, and I'm looking at different master's programs in Stockholm and the UK, and me and Richard are just trying to find a way to make things work between the 2 different countries. The medical process is a whole side in itself, but just being here, like, I can't really get upstairs very easily. Like, I wouldn't have the energy to do that. Come down here for food, or go back upstairs to my room, or like come up and down all day, every day, to have a room upstairs. So I'm sleeping in the lounge currently. We've applied to the local council to get a stair lift from the bottom level to the top level so that I could have a bedroom. She's just wearing a little jacket. It looks like actually she has a button here, like a little tuxedo, doesn't it? Just have a little white neck and then like undershirt, and then there's like a button where a tuxedo goes together.
She's like, oh, I've got to wash these humans off.
Yeah. What were we talking about? I've come here. I'm living at your house. I'm living in your lounge. Why is that happening? At first, you wanted to get a stair lift for me, which I was like so excited about, and we were like, yay, this is a family friend who's going to be able to organise a stair lift for us. Turns out, like, he promised it to us, and he didn't have one.
He was going to rent it out for us. I thought it was an inside one for the stairs inside for you to be able to go upstairs, but then it turned out to be one for the outside. But then we thought, hey, that's more important so that you can get in and out, actually.
By myself.
Yeah. And we kept, that was like a few months, like just realising that that wasn't going to happen.
Because he kept on being like, yeah, I'll come over and install it. Oh, we're busy on a job now.
No, it wasn't installing it. It was, he needed some key to get into where it was kept, and he wasn't getting the key, and then it turned, I don't know what happened with it in the end, I don't know.
But he couldn't come anyway. Yeah,
so, and then it was applying through official channels, through the what's it called, municipal
local council.
Yeah. So
municipal. You went all like
it's French. I did get in contact with him, so in a way it wasn't surprising. So in a way, because I was trying to make this all happen before you got here. I wanted to be all set for you when you got here. And they said no, because you were not registered in Sweden when the accident happened.
Yeah. I love that house of like,
yeah.
Fifi.
Did you want to get it out of the video then?
No, she's just licking her bum. It's fine.
What cats do.
Yeah.
So
you wanted it all set up before I came here.
Yeah. And we were declined because you weren't registered in Sweden.
When it happened.
When it happened. So
my injury. Which is so ironic, because in New Zealand, they were like, you don't qualify for March because this is not an injury. It's due to a pre-existing condition.
Yes.
So we can't help you with lots of things. So I was like, okay, let me move to Sweden then, because I don't qualify for lots of stuff because it's not an injury, it's due to a pre-existing genetic condition. And then when I come here, they're like, oh, sorry, you weren't in the country when your injury or your accident happened.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, it wasn't an accident, it was due to a pre-existing condition.
Yeah.
Could we argue that?
And they said it could possibly happen when you got into the country, and then we started the whole process again, and then they said no.
And they said there are some allowances if people move from abroad to Sweden to get a ramp or to get a lift or something. But the threshold
to that. We got 6 steps, it can only be 4 or 5.
The threshold is under 80 centimetres, and your porch is 1 metre tall.
No, it's 1 metre 5, possibly 1 metre 10 centimetres.
Okay, yeah.
So
it's over the threshold. And then the other thing is, like, if we wanted to build something ourselves, it would be a really lengthy process, because you have to get allowances from the local council to be able to build a permanent structure on your property, even if it's like a ramp or whatever.
An elevator.
And that's going to take time to get that approved by the local council and to be like, yes, you're allowed to build a ramp there, which we might just end up having to do anyway.
And so we probably will just end up building something, which we should have done in the first place.
But I liked Richard's idea of you can get like a temporary structure. Like we could get scaffolding or something and make a ramp out of scaffolding. And then that's like a temporary structure you can remove and take down, so then maybe
we don't have to have an approval.
Make us do building approval and stuff like that. But yeah, it's all just turning into way more of a process than I thought it would.
But even when Sophia came here, Emily's sister, it took us a long time to get into the system is very
square.
It's just very, you know, it's a yes or it's a no, and it takes time, and you have to get a, you know, it's just a whole thing.
The processes and the way it's been is we've just been waiting for them to approve or disapprove, and then we got like a denial on Friday, and so now we're like, okay, the local council's really like not really going to help us. They'll put in handles for me. They'll put in a small ramp on the threshold of the front door.
And they will put what's it called? Pavers on the gravel for you to get out as well. That's what we really need.
Which is what we need, because that's what I need to get out of the house.
So it just means, what are we going to do? Are we going to sell the house? Are you going to start studying and live somewhere else?
But also, this is the other thing that baffles me. I'm like, surely it is more cost effective for them to put a ramp into this property. But then
they seem to want you to get your own place.
Alternatively, they would rather I find my own apartment, live on my own.
Yeah.
And find an accessible apartment, and they would pay like a large portion of my rent instead of just putting a ramp in here.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like I'm quite happy living here, but I wouldn't be against being independent and having my own apartment and things, but it just seems like a waste for me and Richard. It seems like a waste for Richard to have like an apartment or a flat in London, and then me to have my own apartment here. Like it just seems like more economical or whatever.
And me sitting here.
Yeah.
Because they see you're bubbly, you're positive, you are driven, ambitious. They see you as not staying here. They don't want to put all the money and everything into here because they think you're going to move out anyway. So they want to help you in your own place. It took adjustments to just seeing the world through your eyes, and it took time. I just needed to be around it. I'm your mum. I wish I could have just like slotted into it straight away.
But it's okay. It's totally okay to get things wrong, and it's totally okay to not know what I need or to ask me, do you need help with this? Do you need help with that? Like, I think that's such a thing with people. It's like they're like, oh, I don't want to do something wrong. Like
but then they don't do anything.
And they don't do anything. When there's someone that's got like a disability or a difference, like they just don't want to do the wrong things, so they don't do anything. Yeah. And I think that's probably just like the worst thing you could do. Like, the best thing to do is like, if you make a mistake, just be like, hey,
I'm new at this.
I'm new. I don't know what I'm doing here. Do you need me right now? Just guide me. Tell me what you need. And that's the most helpful thing you can do. It's not hard. Like, you learn pretty quick. Like, now I feel like you know. Like,
it took me a long time.
People shouldn't be hard on themselves if they don't just get it instantly, because it's difficult and sometimes it takes some time.
Well, we've got different skill sets, and that's not one of my skill sets, but I think you know where my heart is and that my heart's in it, and maybe that's important. It gets annoying to not get it right all the time, but you know that I mean well and that I want to.
I know you've got good intentions, definitely. And that's the main thing. And I thought it was so fun, like, when you came with me to physio, because I feel like it just opened up kind of like a different world for you, where you like, oh wow, you can use like some of the muscles in your leg, or this is what you're able to do.
It's really cool. Yeah. Hey, I feel that, and you're doing that. And I can see it. You're doing it.
Yeah, you can see that I've got different function.
You're working it.
But a lot of people just presume. They're like, if you stand up, that must mean you're not disabled. It must mean both your legs are working correctly. And it's just like, no. Your body is connected. Like, it's like if I'm moving my hip, my left leg's going to move because I'm moving my hip. And people are like, whoa, you moved your leg! Like, and it's just like, yep. It's connected to my hip, so that does happen. Do you want to? Are you feeling brave enough? I'm kind of thinking we should show them some of the exercises I do.
Oh, you're going to have to guide me.
But yeah.
I know it's the crossover body and it's...
I'll just pack my wheelchair here and you can move it if it's in the way for you. And take it away. But I'll just do a quick transfer and then you can... So basically, what I can do is use some of my quad muscles.
Yeah.
Here. Hamstrings are not functioning very well.
No. Because
but this is what I do.
You don't have any feeling down here really. So you're working these in different angles and stuff. Yeah. So either I work up to your shoulder or I work up to that shoulder. So
left or right, we can choose whichever side we want to go to. That's where I'm strongest. So she just helps me with the bottom part because I can't lift the bottom half of my leg. But when I get to about here, this is all me. I can control this myself. Yeah. Like pulling it up towards my shoulder. Cool. I guess you can't see much. Like it looks like it's not moving.
It's very cool.
But if you can like put your hand against here and you push against me, like I can pull up against her hand here with my quad muscles and I'm doing something. Yeah,
definitely. She's...
Yeah, and then I can do... The other shoulder's more difficult because these muscles have all wasted away a little bit more. So that's harder, but I still have some control, I think.
She's got an amazing physiotherapist.
But sometimes what my physiotherapist does is she'll like tap on my different muscles to like activate them.
Yeah. So
and then when
now you're working this one.
If I feel something there, I can sometimes connect it from my brain. I have such admiration for people that do this and go through rehab and physio and they're, you know, all different levels of strength and stuff because it takes so much energy, like it takes so much control. Just try to connect your brain to that part.
Maybe not with Margarita. Don't know.
It's not perfect. And it doesn't mean that you can't do things.
No. But... And I have, she showed me so well. She was such a professional.
I love my physio. She's so cool.
She could just like play like an instrument. She like and you just.
She's a magician.
Yeah. So I obviously have no idea what I'm doing really, but
no, you're doing super well.
I know.
All you have to do really is hold up the bottom half of my leg and I try and move the top half of my leg. That's essentially it. Yeah. These are the exercises I can do, people. Be impressed. I've worked on this for like 6 months. This is just kind of sad. Like, why am I showing this on the internet?
Here we are.
Lovely. So we'll end the video and we can watch some Abbott.